Our kinesiology activity is stepping up onto a curb. Please enjoy our video.
Stepping up onto a curb requires movement at multiple joints, including the hip, knee, ankle, and metatarsophalangeal joints. In our video, the participant steps up onto a standard height curb. Her center of gravity is anterior to S1 and S2 throughout the movement, and her line of gravity is well within the base of support of her legs. Note that her base of support is wider when she has two legs in contact with the ground than when she is balanced on one leg. Stepping up onto a curb requires two classes of levers, second and third. For the purposes of this video, we're going to be focusing on plantar flexion, which just requires a second class lever.
Stepping up onto a curb requires movement at the ankle and the MTP joints, which push down toward the ground. In the second class lever system, the resistance or load is the force of gravity and the weight of the body situated between the effort or force of the gastrocnemius muscles and the fulcrum of the MTP joints. The lever system for plantar flexion cannot be changed. Regarding kinematics, when our participant plantar flexes, movement at the MTP joint is anterior and in the sagittal plane. As we saw in the video, this motion primarily follows a rectilinear path throughout the stepping motion that begins with plantar flexion and ends with dorsiflexion.
Newton's second law is acceleration. This indicates that the acceleration of the leg through space depends on the force the participant exerts during the stepping movement, along with the weight of the leg. The participant would be expected to exert greater force in order for her foot to clear the height of the curb upward. If she uses too little force, she would not clear the curb with her foot, and she may stumble.
Here is our model to help visualize the movement of the muscles during plantar flexion. The muscle actions are color-coded, with blue muscles being the agonists, green signifies the synergist muscles, and the purple signifies the antagonist muscles. Starting in the back, we see the only prime mover for plantar flexion is the gastrocnemius. When contracted, the shortening of the fibers causes the foot to flex towards the ground. Deep to the gastrocs, we have the synergist muscles, being the soleus, the tibialis posterior, the flexor digitorum longus, and the flexor hallucis longus. On the side, we have two more synergist muscles, the peroneus longus and the peroneus brevis. The only antagonist muscle, which is located in the front, is the tibialis anterior. Movement per plantar flexion occurs at the condyloid MTP joint, which is very stable with limited movement.
The medial and lateral gastrocnemius muscles are located in the primary crus, with the fibers running vertically. The gastrocs have origins at the medial and lateral condyles of the femur and insert into the posterior calcaneus via the Achilles tendon. The fibers of the tibialis anterior, an antagonist muscle for plantar flexion, run vertically and slightly medial to lateral from the bottom to the top of the crus. Its origin is the upper half of the lateral tibia and interosseous membrane with an insertion at the medial cuneiform bone and the base of the first metatarsal. If the fibers for the gastrocs did not run vertically, plantar flexion would not be so much in the sagittal plane. If the medial gastrocnemius muscle was damaged, but not the lateral side, plantar flexion would be reduced and at an angle so that the medial side of the foot would plantar flex more than the lateral side, as you can see here. The participant would need to develop compensatory strategies for stepping up. A synergist muscle that supports plantar flexion is the soleus. The soleus originates at the upper tibia and fibula and also inserts into the Achilles tendon with the gastrocs. These muscle fibers also run vertically, so if both of these medial and lateral gastrocnemius muscles were damaged, this muscle would still allow for vertical movement, but with diminished force due to its smaller size.
With additional plantar flexion, torque increases at the MTP joint. A longer foot would lead to more torque, whereas a foot that doesn't plantar flex would result in less torque. Larger movement at the hip, knee, and ankle would all result in more torque. If the force arm was similar to the moment arm, torque would be lower. Lastly, if the participant hyperplantar flexed the foot, it would increase the torque.
Thanks for watching!